Okay, so wanted to cover off today with continue with the automations theme, but moving to the marketing side now. Last week was all about shaving cost out of your business. Today we're going to be looking at how do you do marketing. I will show an example where very shortly of an automation that I built uh, uh, over the weekend actually. All right, so firstly, you want to create a data set. That's what we've all been playing with. I think you're fairly familiar with it. Something that looks a little bit like this. All right, where you've got your data in stamp, all your different values and stuff like that. Right, so that's kind of like a given. That's what happens when you run a quiz funnel or a DT or any kind of funnel for that matter. You will end up with data that looks something like this. This is for a solar data set. Now, what's going to happen is you want to add data to the data set. Now, oftentimes it happens in real time. So a good example of that is where you would make an API call to, for example, your lead distribution platform, and it'll come back with who bought the lead. Right? That's a real-time update. Now, there are people who also do real-time lookups for other things, like get a bit more information about the email that someone's entered and things of that sort. Now, for example, data verification is a good example of that, where people are validating whether the phone number is real or not. It's a real-time API call. Now, that's not the only data available that's out there. Obviously, you can have revenue data that's coming off the market segment you may have identified. You obviously have geo data, you've got device data, and there are a whole bunch of data that you're going to get from interaction. Now, oftentimes, this kind of data is a little bit too slow for a real-time funnel. And a lot of value is being generated with the real-time stuff, but sometimes it's going to take about 5 or 10 milliseconds, or 5 or 10 seconds, I should say, to bring back a whole bunch of extra data. In real time, ends up becoming a little bit too expensive as well, because you're making real-time API calls. If you were to batch process it, you would probably often be much cheaper. So the question here is what can you do with all this extra data that you've picked up? How do you profile your existing customer base that you've got? And can we learn something about who are the actual buyers versus non-buyers? In order to do that, revenue data being the most obvious one. I think we had a look last week about that. But you can also start looking at your customer interaction data. This is where your number of phone calls being made, how many emails have been sent, pretty much all the automations that you're firing from your platform like GHL or whatever marketing automation platform you're using. All that data is available to be looked at and to be studied. So how many interactions did it take for so let's say you've got 25 conversions or you've got 150 conversions. You can go back and see, well, what interactions resulted, or how many interactions resulted in each one of these people buying. And you might realize, well, hang on a second, these people only required 3 interactions to buy, while somebody else needed 25 interactions to buy. If we look at all the other data we know about them, what else can we learn from this, and how can we use that? Now, the qualitative data is where the real magic happens, which is the type of conversations people are having, the content of the conversation themselves. It's easy and never to extract these key learnings now. You can just run an automation. I'm going to show you one where it comes back and it pulls back a whole bunch of information around the telephone conversation. So you can actually have real-time phone conversations that are going to an AI and it can summarize it for you, sort of the objections that were raised, the solutions that were given, so on and so forth. And if you get all of those summary type information, and you may even categorize that, sort of what type of objections they gave, and you have that against your customer record now, all of a sudden, or without a lot of effort, let me just get out of this data set starts getting another 30, 40 columns, and it's got a whole bunch of extra information that essentially nobody else in the market has about the very same customer base you're looking at. And this is where kind of like where the next level of lead gen is in terms of the data mining side of it. I'm sharing some very simple things here. So, and none of this is difficult, but no one ever does it. That's the real win here, right? So you're looking at firmographics, personal and personal data. Now, what are these things that you can do, right? So I'm going to share with you one which I've used many years in the past. It was called Newstar back then. I think they've been taken over and it's called TransUnion now. There you go with New Star Marketing Solutions. You essentially upload your data, and it comes back with a customer profile. Back then, I don't know if their data set, if their model has improved or not, and I'm guessing that it probably would have. They had, I believe there were 160 categories that they identified where everybody would sit in any market. And they would look at the email address you can upload and all the other bunch of information you've uploaded, and it could profile where the clusters of people were based on their data set. Now you can realize is that segment 6, 7, and 9 is where the value is. What other traffic sources can I find where these people sit? So you're almost reverse engineering from your conversion data back to understanding the segment data. Now, what New Star had done is they had created whatever the 100 and X many categories. I'm not exactly remember how many. And so you could then go to a really large some of the media buying things saying, I want a New Star segment 25. And you can quickly see whether your customer data set is available to bid on, right? And so once again, this is kind of like I'm looking at another level of this whole media buying game. Sorry, I got a question here. Let me make sure I don't get too far ahead. Thanks, Joss. All right, it's not too difficult if you just a little bit of time, right? So maybe that's a bit of caveat there. All right, a little bit nerdy. Okay. Now, similarly, this is I believe the solution was a little bit more expensive, but if you have a large data set, let's say a couple 100,000 customers, you could probably go here and get yourself a good understanding of who these people are, but more importantly, where can you find them now, right? Now, at Data, they used to be called Tower Data. They've just changed names. And apart from the typical fraud check type stuff, is the identity one that is really interesting. This one here. What you do is essentially give them the email, and it brings back a whole lot of information about who the person is. So almost like a third-party customer profiling tool. And now so once again, what we're doing is we're building the extra columns in our data set, and then what we do is we put into essentially something Claude or whatever your favorite choice of tool is, and you start building these audiences. But now the AI has got many more columns to look at, and so it starts giving you much more detailed data. A much more detailed and granular understanding of what kind of people are buying from you. All right, so this is kind of like, now if you are going to be doing on the B2B side, so because I know that not everybody does B2C only. If you're doing the B2B, then it's kind of looking at your firmographics data. And there are a whole bunch of data providers on the firmographic side. I've used Bright Data in the past, but then there's so much M&A activity here. I'm sure I'll probably use one or two more, but the names have changed. And there's a few more that I found earlier today, including there you go. There's some UK companies here as well. So what you would do here is, if you are doing B2B, then you take your existing customers of B2B, you're profiling against who these people are, and you get a little bit more deeper understanding of what they are and who they are and all that sort of stuff. B2B is a little bit easier. You can obviously look at LinkedIn profiles and things like that and pull that out, so you don't have to necessarily pay for it if you don't want to, but it's an efficient way of doing it. But importantly, what you can do is you can go back to the data set and saying, listen, the type of companies that are transacting with us, how many of this profile that you have sitting inside LinkedIn or wherever traffic source that you're looking at, and then you can go ahead and build a campaign around that, or an outreach campaign around that, right? So once again, the B2B side is a little bit easier. It's the B2C side where you can probably get a lot more value. So instead of surveying your customer base, you rely on this, and then when you finally survey your customer base, you can verify to see if there's any difference between the two, right? So that would be, in a nutshell, how I would be looking at this. Now, what does the automation look like? All right, well, let's go and have a look. This one is not so much, this is augmenting data. So it's looking at data and then augmenting it, but it's not necessarily specific about a customer profile, but it's using the same principle, right? And so once again, with email addresses, I'm really reluctant to just show third party or people's email addresses online. So this is kind of like the version that hides emails, but the principle is the same. So what we've got here is, so I just want to break it down here for you. I'm actually getting FX rates in this case, all right, as an example. Now, in your case, you'd make an API call into one of these data providers, and you'd get some information back. In my case, I'm using this as almost like an example. I'm making an API call to bring back exchange rates. You will make an API call to bring back details about the email that you've captured, or the firm, or the person, whatever details that you are looking at, right? And that's essentially that's all we're looking at here. This is just another way of doing it. Now, where the kind of like the magic part happened, or at least that I thought was the magic part, was you can actually make it a loop. So you have a whole bunch of emails, or you have a batch process system. So you've got, like, 500 emails or 1,000 or whatever they are, and you'd make it loop, and you keep updating your Google Sheet. So I'm going to delete this record right here and get rid of it. So it's going to give me my exchange rates. In my case, I built a very small data set. I said, looking at everything from the 1st of December to the 10th of December, so only 10 days. Let's run the automation now, so I can show you what's actually happening. It's actually, so that's the Google Sheet right here. It's the Google Sheet. It's actually updating this Google Sheet with FX rates. And I'm going to break down each of the nodes very shortly, just to give a better understanding of sort of like how powerful some of these things are. And they're not, yeah, they're a little bit pain to build it the first time, but once you really get it, life gets a little bit easier. So let me go ahead and just test it out. So what's happening here? It's picking the dates of between the 2 date range, and then you can see here it's looping, right? So it's going to wait 5 seconds, and then it's going to update a Google Sheet, comes back, and it runs again. And then it's going to keep doing it for 10 times, because I have 10 dates here. So 1 through to the 10th of December. Now, why am I got a 5-second delay here? I've got a 5-second delay here because Google Sheets will give you a warning that you have got too many API calls. So it will rate limit you, and all of a sudden the automation breaks. I'm not sure. I think 5 seconds is a little bit too much. I could probably get away with just 1 second or 2 seconds. But nevertheless, I just wanted to share with you that that's what's actually happening here. It's actually looping through 10 different dates. So in your case, it'd be 10 different emails, or 10 different personal details, 10 different customer records, 10 different addresses, 10 different company IDs or company numbers that you could loop through. So once again, using this as an example of what can, and as you can see, it's running through, and as soon as it runs, there's 2 more to go, and then we'll go and have a look, because I actually emptied out the Google Sheet here. And you should see that there's 10 values here, and I'll break down each of the nodes of what's happening. Right. Workflow has been executed, and there you go. It fed me my exchange rates in this case. In your case, you'd have a whole bunch of columns about details of the specific person. Now, these automations do need something, and this was a bit of an improvement that I made, where if you look at the Google Sheet here, it actually you can actually give it a column to match on. So it looks at a column. So make sure that it doesn't start duplicating your data. The way to not duplicate data is to have an ID of some sort. Usually have a lead ID or an email address or some match thing, so it doesn't start adding duplicate records. I used Epoch. That's a fancy word for the address converted into a numerical number. This is how the servers store dates. So I'm just converting each date into this kind of numerical sequence, and that is the numerical sequence. So if I run this automation again, it won't add another 10 lines at the bottom here, because you can see that I've already got my dates sitting as numerical values. It'll try and match that, and so that way, if you ever do any updates, so let's say, for example, this FX rate was wrong for the day, or in your case, some record you want to update, but you've already got an existing email, but now you've learned a little bit more, or maybe you're looking at a new data provider. Well, it'll try and find the very same email and then just update all the columns for that email, rather than start adding newer lines. So that's the kind of like one of the kind of gotchas of this whole thing. You need to match on some sort of a unique identifier about the whole thing, right? But beyond that, everything else is just relatively simple. It's getting FX rates. In your case, you're looking at whatever you're going to be looking at, and then it moves on to the very next thing after building this data set out, right? So just a very simple automation today, where I wanted to show you how you can take an offline type of data, such as your lead record or something, and then make it run a few times to get a whole lot of extra data about it. Now you take this and you shove it into ChatGPT or wherever, and you ask it to build your market segment, and you can use that market segment to If somebody's coming in, let me just let them in here. Jay. All right, so you can then do your segments, and that can give you a better understanding of changing ads and changing your targeting and so on and so forth. The main value of all this is actually a lot of people don't realize is actually the the actual finding new traffic sources, the targeting and the ads, and obviously the copy and the offer reconstruction that you can come up with, because you've got a much deeper understanding of who actually is buying from you and why they're buying from you, or the differences between the segments or the clusters of people become much clearer. And that is the real value, because now you can stop buying traffic for people that aren't a good match for you. So rather than seeing this big colossal mass where the analysis is being done around the ad works and the landing page works and the DT works, you're looking for groups of people that work rather than yeah. Question. Did somebody have a question here? No. All right, cool. Right, so that's all I wanted to say about this. Any questions on this? Cool. Does it make sense? Something you want me to go through again?
So far. For the larger data sets, Nick, what are you using for databasing at the moment?
I'm using Superbase.
Okay.
So next week maybe I'll show you an automation with that, because what I'm trying to do is not to give you one of these with like about 500 pieces on it, because then it'll be hard to follow. So next week we'll probably look at, or maybe not next week. Let's see what the interest is, getting very close to Christmas. Otherwise we'll just do it in the new year, and where I'll show you an example of how to actually deal with a real vector and a database and a vector database to really get this thing going at scale, irrespective of how many lines you have. So that's where you would actually go into it. Now you can use Airtable and all that sort of stuff. I found that having I found a problem with Google Sheets is that it limits your rate. So and I learned that only this week. I'd never come across this before, so I don't know, because I have a paid account, so I don't know if my paid account is not, or perhaps I just did too much testing and therefore it stopped me. But there are people out there who are doing a very high volume of leads. I'm not sure if they're doing 1 lead per second, but so that's probably why they've never reached that limit. But there is a limit to how many API calls a Google Sheet will accept. I don't think it's a practical limit for most people, but something to be aware of. So if that is ever going to be a concern, if you find that your lead volumes are increasing, where Google Sheets itself is going to limit how many API
Google
calls
Sheets breaks after a certain point.
Correct, exactly. So that's where you may want to go to Airtable, Superbase, or one of those. What I like about Superbase is that it has a normal database, it's Postgres, and it also acts as a vector database, so you can do both at once. And that means that you don't have to go and do two separate solutions. So I'll share something about that. Maybe not next week, but the week after, probably in the new year, once everybody's a bit fresh and back, and hopefully ready to take on 2025. So we'll look at then
why Superbase opposed to like a Amazon or Google?
Just the ease of integration. There's a lot of integrations already available. So if I go to Superbase, that's the normal one, and then they can put it to the vector. Now, having said that, you said Amazon, yeah, absolutely you can. So if I just go AWS, there you go. They're all available here, right? There's a Lambda is here. I don't know if let me see if Redshift is here. That's the product that they use. No, Redshift is not here. So you would have to build something a little bit more custom. So yeah, that's the only reason why. It's more availability for ease of integrations that are already built is why I'm doing it. Not necessarily I have any personal like or affinity to Superbase. Use whatever. You could use I guess BigQuery might be here. Yeah, there you go. BigQuery is here. So you could use just as BigQuery. But I found that the documentation, and as once you get into the server side of BigQuery, it's a bit of a mess, right? Like the whole interface is not very friendly. While Superbase, it's a very simple interface. You can quickly search for things, all that sort of stuff. While Google and Amazon, the ecosystems are not very user friendly, is the reason why I'm doing it. Obviously, when I'm working with my team, we use Amazon. But when I'm trying to build something that I'm going to show it to non-technical people, then I'm avoiding Amazon because of the fact that it's painful. It's a little bit too technical for most non-techies. So yeah, but I guess the answer is use whatever you think will work in your case that is comfortable enough for your team to embrace this as well. Because what I'm noticing is that there's actually a resistance to people trying to embracing a lot of this stuff, and that I think will be something that I guess we all have to take a bit of proactive action into to teaching our team members that really this is kind of like the future of where all this is heading. So sort of don't make yourself obsolete by not embracing the change. Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, good. That's the only reason why it's easy enough to use. I mean, being technical enough, but still relatively easy enough to use. So I wanted to share one automation. Let me just.
Did you? Sorry,
yeah.
a bit of tangent. Did you see Google's announcement yesterday?
About Gemini?
Flash, yeah, Gemini Flash.
Yeah, I did. All right. So this one here, I actually messed around with the prompt quite a bit. So, and I know last week I shared like a crappy prompt. This week I redid the prompt, and that's what the actual prompt looks like. And the output it's giving is actually pretty decent. I'm still talking with my SEO person to see if it's up to his standard. He's actually quite. He's actually he actually likes it to be very high quality. So that's okay. I'll see if it passes his standard. But there you go. That's what it produced. Automate your marketing with AI workflows. This is for last week's call, and this whole thing is created with AI, including the timestamps. So the timestamps are a little bit off to where it actually happened. So I'm actually working on improving the timestamps now. I'll see if I can, but that is 100% AI. Then it goes to someone to overlook it one more time and then make any adjustments they needed. Or if they think it's crap, they'll just rerun the automation to generate another set, or make whatever the manual edits they need to optimize it further. Right. So I got that finally working, and this is the actual prompt of what it looks like, including the hashtags and so on and so forth. Right. So just wanted to kind of make sure I complete that thing from last week and not leave people hanging as to what this was. This is the next version of this. The next thing I'm working on right now is 100% zero human touch accounting. So all of our invoices, all of our expenses, everything else fully categorized with FX rates and all the rest of it. That's the reason for building the FX rate automation, was for that actually. But all of it automatically getting fed into QuickBooks with no human touch. So I think I'm close to that. Once I achieve it, I'll show you guys what I did. And so we're looking at, so we've gone from like literally, maybe 20 to 25 hours a week of human time involved, whether it be the bookkeeper or someone grabbing the invoices and all that sort of stuff, to essentially 0 and maybe an hour a month to just do the bank recs and stuff like that, which is a phenomenal amount of saving. Now, obviously, we're not a very big business in the sense that we don't have a lot of people and a lot of departments. It's just data moving around. But can you imagine if you were a real big company that is got an accounting team of the accounts payable person and the accounts receivable person and the bookkeeper person, the payroll person, and then the financial controller person and management accountant, and so on and so forth. And you can see like the big layers that you see. If you study what they're actually doing, a lot of their time is just in grabbing data and putting it in some system. Well, imagine if you just got rid of all of that and just made everything a little bit more faster and much more efficient. I'm not gonna. So this automation is running right now. It runs every Monday at 3 a.m., which is so after this call. it'll run this scheduled event, and it'll run through the whole thing. So pretty much when our video editing person comes online, they've got the video file, they've got the transcript, and they've got the YouTube description ready to go. So previously, a few more hours a week, down to really just copying and pasting.
Hyper efficient.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. So while we often talk about the top line stuff, like how do we grow more, get more leads, and all that sort of stuff, and that's great. Everybody has to do that, but you also want to make sure that you continue to remain lean, and because that's just a far better way to operate the business and not needlessly waste money on stuff that you don't have to. So yeah. Any questions or comments on this? Feel free to share your perspective on this. Once again, Jason, I see you unmute. Any questions? No. Okay.
No. Good.
Okay. Awesome. All right.
Can we pinch your workflow once you're done?
I'm sorry. That's on Workflow SOS. No, just kidding. Yeah, maybe I'll hand this out soon. So let me get them proficiently working all, and then I can hand them out. Yeah, because it's usually just exporting. You can import them, and you can grab those. All right. Okay. Any questions on this before I move on to any other Q&A about because I did receive a question today about GHL. So I want to get to that. No. Okay. Well, if there's questions, we'll move on to. Anyway, hopefully this is kind of makes sense and it's valuable. I know not every example I show is going to be directly translating to you, but you can kind of see the direction that all this is going in, and that the ability to run a 0-employee business is getting a much more of a real concept than just theory. So yeah, we're getting quite close to that, I think. All right. On that, I will move into Lucid Chart here. And Theo, if you just unmute your mic, let's have a chat. So I can just map this thing out, and let's break the problem down. The reason we're doing is twofold. Number one is obviously so you can see sort of like how I end up doing it. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but it's I've been solving this problem for many users. So let's this is not necessarily a LeadZook issue, but this is what this forum is here for. Any problems you have, happy to answer the question. So let's. So from what I understand, you've got a GHL widget, so a GHL chat widget. Is it right? And you've got some issues about tracking here. So can you just give me a bit more context? I'll map it out in a flow diagram, and then let's see what we can solve.
Yeah, of course. So it's working with a really large e-com store in the UK, and we have an AI link to the chat widget on Go High Level, and the AI basically can field a lot of the queries, but occasionally it will recommend products, and we want to be able to track when it recommends a product, someone might click through and ultimately purchase on that. So it might send a specific link to a specific page, and that person goes, clicks through and makes a purchase. We want to agree, because it's more of a trial basis we're working at the moment, we want to try and agree some sort of performance related deal. So we can say definitively, they spoke with the chatbot recommended this product, they bought that product. We're struggling for a way using GHL's technology to attribute that to the AI, essentially.
Okay. So if I can just break it down, I think what you're doing here is you've got a Zapier or some integration, and then you've got some AI sitting at the bottom of it, whether it be OpenAI or Claude or whatever the heck it is, and essentially you've got communications going sort of back and forth here, just for everybody's benefit as to what's actually going on. You've got something along these lines, going back here, and then back to the chat. So that's essentially what's happening, but back and forth in this sort of a somewhat of a. Once again, I don't want to reveal what exactly you're doing, but something like this is what's actually happening. Correct?
Yeah, pretty much spot on. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. So the question is after the interaction is done, they will end up in some sort of a shopping cart experience. I'm just going to whack that in the middle here. So a checkout or whatever it is. There may be one or two steps before, but at some point they end up and then finally they end up having a purchase here. And what you're trying to do is track and see that the chats that they're coming off your AI-based widget is resulting in the final purchase, or the conversion in this case is what you're trying to track. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Now, when you send traffic to, now, once again, I'm not a GHL expert, so you're gonna have to guide me a little bit on this. When you send traffic to a GHL, like so, does their widget allow you to capture anything? Can you pass any information into the widget, whether it be hidden custom fields or event data or any tags or anything of that sort? Can you pass anything into the widget?
No, essentially no, not from the features within high level.
Okay, now also the widget is not being polluted, right? I.e., that some things is running your AI and then some things it's not running. It's running like the store owner's own stuff there. So you're not arguing about that, right? It's whatever comes from the widget, that's attributed to you guys, correct?
100%.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier. Now, when you go from a widget into the checkout, does the process where you end up does the URLs that you add here for product recommendations, does that allow you to add any params to the whole thing? So what I mean by that is when the product recommendation comes from the Zapier or from the AI itself, actually, can you ask it to build a URL that has got the parameters associated with it? Now, there could be UTMs or could be any other parameter, or whatever you need to track. Does it allow you to have you tried messing around with the AI to when it gives the recommendations to add in the any parameters regarding what this is? That doesn't have to be UTM, could be just source equals widget or something, and that would be enough, as long as you can capture that in the checkout in a hidden custom field. So the idea here for me would be, and sorry, I'm being redundant here just for everybody else's benefit, not saying you're not doing any of this. So essentially, to add in hidden custom fields inside your checkout, which obviously then show up on the sales data or the invoice or the whatever else, the record that is being created. So the question now is how do we push the data into the hidden custom fields, and is there an ability to do that? Can you add scripts to the checkout that allows you to grab the UTM or the URL parameters and automatically add that into that? Does GHL allow any of that sort of stuff?
GHL's no, it doesn't allow it our side, but I'm thinking, because we have been testing and playing around with it, and we've got the AI pretty reliably to always append a specific UTM. So I think what we're getting at is the solution is they need to have a hidden form section or custom field section where it specifically looks for that UTM.
Yeah, so that's essentially, I think we've both reached the same conclusion. That would be the only way to do it. Now, the other thing, and this is a little bit of a hacky, but I will share it anyway, is that there is another checkout experience to create, because I know it's GHL, so you can kind of duplicate anything you want in it. So it would be like a checkout 2, and so your widget always goes to that checkout and not their native checkout. So the widget always sends it to another instance, or what's the word they use to when you create a whole thing? It's not an instance, it's a snapshot or whatever the heck it is. All right, so so you potentially create a second one, and I'm not aware of the nature of the product here, but so let's assume that then you could actually effectively have all the URLs from the widget itself go to a totally separate checkout experience, which is an exact duplicate of this, and in which case your attribution would become super simple, because any revenue that's coming from checkout 2 is yours, and any revenue coming from checkout 1 is actually not yours.
Okay, that could make sense. Because I suppose it's probably more pushing with the client, because I spoke to the client and I said, like, look, we're sending this UTM, and they gave it to what they called their tech team, and the tech team were like, no, we can't do anything with that. So yeah, I think maybe their tech team just needs to be told that if you create a hidden field,
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because it's a constant battle, or a source of friction. It's probably a better way to put it. When you're trying to work with third parties, you've got a solution in your mind, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of sort of technical prowess on the other side. So, for example, I jumped on a call recently where someone's like, I don't know how lead hooks enhanced conversion tracking for Google ads doesn't work. And I said, what do you mean it doesn't work? And you know how Google gives you the conversion ID and the conversion label? Well, they just made some stuff up. They're like, oh, this is checkout A and checkout B or something, or whatever. They put their own values in there, and they're like, it doesn't work. And I was like, I don't think this is a lead hook issue. This is a you don't know Google Ads issue. So yeah, so they've been trying to mess with it for a while. They've hired a techie to help them, and the techie himself didn't know that. And so once again, nothing against this client in particular, but the point is sometimes you'll run into those limitations where the tech team on the other side is, I mean, they say they're techies, but they're not techies. They're just, I don't know what they are, but they just don't know enough about what this is, and you're relying on them to kind of deliver the technical part of the whole thing. So I would suggest, if need be, just prototype this out yourself.
Yeah.
On your own little instance with your own GHL checkout, and test the whole solution out, and that way it might be easier to say, hey, okay, listen guys, we worked it out, here's how you would end up doing. You go here, you set the custom field this way, so on and so forth, and you set up your own widget site and sort of get that part going. I guess it's not the AI side that's not the problem here. The issue for you is the attribution into the checkout. And so my suggestion would be just to create in your own GHL account, get a new snapshot or instance or whatever it is going, and just validate that whole part out, and then just give them the instructions saying, listen, this is how you do it, or give us access to do it and we'll take care of it for you. So that's often the best solution in this case, rather than relying on them to do this final bit, because now let's say it takes another 3 weeks for them to get around to doing this. That's assuming that they know what to do. You've just wasted 3 weeks and back and forth with all this nonsense. In fact, it's happening with someone I'm working with right now. They told me that the developers and programmers and so on and so forth, they don't even have a basic understanding of conversions. And so the person who did the job for them, he's brought me and saying, hey, listen, Nick, can you help us navigate this? And it's really difficult. So what I did was I said to the person I'm working with, I said, let's just recreate the entire infrastructure, and let's just get something working on it so we know exactly that it works. And then we can just tell the client saying, here you go, here's the solution. Let us just implement it for you. And that oftentimes will be the best way to solve the problem, rather than relying on them to come to the party. And if they're not quite talented as you need them to be, you'll end up wasting your time.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, because as soon as we can get like a proven principle and do it on some sort of performance related, there's more potential clients we can go to with this.
I think it might be easier to get a kidney transplant.
Yeah, definitely. Nick, I know you've touched on like the AI recalling databases and stuff. The way we've currently set it up is we're using OpenAI assistants for this client in particular, and within that we upload files, usually as a PDF, because for some reason, I don't know if you played around with it, but when you attach files on the vector database on OpenAI, quite often it restricts, even though it says it can like accept like CSV and everything else, for some reason PDF only seemed to be the only one that worked. So with this client, they've got thousands and thousands on their website of different stocks and prices. We've been manually downloading from their site the product stock list and uploading regularly. Do you know of any way to automate that process to get into
absolutely.
the OpenAI assistant files?
Okay, so there's two problems you brought up. I'll identify both. You let me know which one you're struggling with. So the first one is essentially the scraping problem, and which is you've got thousands of pages, and you are grabbing the details of each of those thousands of pages. Is this a solution you need to be automated, the scraping one?
Yes, ideally. Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, cool. Okay, so that would be the first thing that to work on. Now, to scrape, you can actually a lot of these platforms like N8N. I'll see if I can show you the scraping example. I actually did that about 3-4 weeks ago, but I've got so many automations. I'm going to have to find the right one. So maybe next week or the week after, I'll share how to scrape at scale, no matter what the site is, and to go and grab every page. All right, so I'll share that with you in the next week or two. Now comes the second issue, which is how to make OpenAI understand the data. Now you've got OpenAI. Now I would actually suggest that you also test out, right? And I know this is not quite the vanilla solution you were looking for, but I would actually ask you to definitely test out Claude, because it actually likes playing with CSV files much better, which is going to be the solution SOS. You definitely want that. Also, I haven't played with Gemini at the moment, but that's the other one to consider. And so they're the kind of like the three that I would consider at this stage. But Claude can work pretty much right away. It works in a very similar way to the OpenAI one. There would already be a lot of integrations available with it, and just copy and paste the prompt over and see if this one here does a better job of it. And the reason I'm suggesting that is because this is a much easier problem to solve. All you're doing is just copying and pasting your OpenAI stuff into Claude itself, and that's it. Nothing else changes. Your files will be uploaded to CSVs or as .md files, which is Markdown, and that's it. The problem is solved. Rather than trying to manipulate OpenAI to do a better job of working with non-PDF type files, because as soon as you start doing PDFs, it becomes a little bit laborious for you as well, because you're gonna have to go and grab every page and PDF the whole thing. Easier, faster, and cheaper to just have a CSV file, which obviously you just extract and update. So I would look at I would look at Claude as a very first step for you to substitute instead of OpenAI, especially if OpenAI is not playing nice with your documentations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Now, since you've mentioned the other solution, so what you would do, and this is would be to take all of those PDFs or CSV file or whatever, and just and add it into a vector DB, because now you have infinite capacity, right? So versus, because if you said hundreds of SKUs, you might get away with just attaching documents to Claude or OpenAI. But if you're looking at for tens of thousands of SKUs, then you're going to run into capacity issues that even these guys can handle. And that's where you would need to then add in a vector database, which is storing that information, and it's actually searching the vector DB for the relevant SKUs and all that kind of stuff, right? So, so at scale, you might not have any choice but to do this. Having said that, OpenAI and Claude and Gemini and all the rest of them are increasing their capacity size. So each time they do an update, their context window is increasing more and more and more. So they're able to handle quite a bit without necessarily getting this involved. But there is still a need for these types of things, especially when you're looking at tens of thousands of lines of stuff. So you may have to address it at some point. So once again, I'll cover that in a future video, but just wanted to kind of share with you where you would introduce this as a potential addition to your current setup.
Okay, appreciate that. And sorry if you touched on it in the past, scraping from a website, do you use a software for that, or?
Yeah. No, so it's a very simple automation. I'll see if I can pull it out. There's about 2 or 3 ways of doing it. If it's just a normal site where you won't get captures and all that kind of stuff to block you, like for example, scraping Ads Manager is a totally different toolkit required than just to scrape, for example, leads.com, which where we don't limit a bot as such, so anybody can come and scrape whatever. So since this is a normal site, a normal e-com site, I'll actually share that with you. My suggestion would be, as a very quick solution, would be to go to API-Fi, which I've shared in the past.
Right, yeah.
API-Fi scraper, there you go. And even browse is not bad, but API-Fi is a much more, I find, like a mature solution. And what you do is these are actors that you hire. So there you go. There's a web content crawler. There you go. It's probably the one that you want to use. It's got 29,000 people using it, and that's it. It'll crawl the site up. You hire the actor, you hire the person, or this in this case, and you just let it run. You put in a and it already comes integrated with there you go, integrates with all the different vector databases. There's the OpenAI assistant as well, or you can save it into one of these extra other. That's not a vector database, but these are that is Llama indexes as well. Yeah. So
Okay.
and the different formats in which you want to do it. So it's been pre-programmed to work to address the problem that you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that into the chat. And what it does, it saves you from having to set up the infrastructure, and all you're going to do is use it. Now, how much do these people charge? How much is this actor charge? They charge like about $20 a month or something. It's actually fairly cheap to hire these guys. And the fact that it's got 29,000 people have given it a thumbs up or whatever, it actually would work quite well. There you go. 99% of the runs have succeeded. 3,500 monthly users. Yeah. So that's that. So this is by the way, it's also maintained by API-Fi. So yeah, this is legit. I would just go and use this one. This product is about $50 a month, and then you pay for the actor, and that's usually about 10. In their case, I think it's free, because you're paying the monthly $50 a month, and then you pay for how much you use it. So in your case, you'd hire the actor, you'd have a 10,000 page website, you'd scrape the hell out of it. It might cost you, I don't know, maybe $100, and then you unhire the actor, so you kind of stop it. You stop the run, because you've captured the entire all of the pages from the site and have saved it into PDF or whatever your favorite format is.
Okay, that'd be brilliant if it can directly, because looking at this, it should be able to directly upload into the OpenAI system.
Correct, exactly. So there's no need for you to go and reinvent the wheel from the technical side. Outsource your technical requirement to something like this, and just focus on where you add value, which is sort of doing this bit, or doing this bit here, so you get paid. Okay. $50 a month. I mean, it's kind of like for $50 a month, or free in this case. You're only paying for the machine to scrape. It's almost like pointless to even bother.
No brainer.
Trying
to figure it out.
Just use the damn thing.
Perfect. Really appreciate that. Thanks, Nick.
No problem. Thanks for jumping on the call. Thanks for asking. All right. Any other questions on this or anything else that's troubling you guys? Nope. All right. Well, if there's no more questions.
With database, Nick, when you're adding, say, information from augmenting data, or if you're even bringing data from LeadsHook and then capturing lead data, do you keep them in separate databases, or do you bring them all under one, or what's your...
My take is put them all into one, provided they're... So if you're looking at something like it's not that. Looking at something like this kind of data set, then obviously one of your columns would be email and phone number and all that sort of stuff. So I would add, and those would be your unique identifiers. And so if you ever bring any other data, it would be associated with the phone number, or would be associated with an email. That's usually like the two main unique identifiers that is used. So I would actually append it to that and then have it all in the one database. And then therefore, if you ever create a CSV file or you need to go and, you know, get some analysis done, it's all sitting in the one place. Now, if you were doing like, you know, millions of records or billions of records, then you may need to worry about infrastructure type stuff. But for your purpose and for purpose of pretty much most lead gens, no matter how much volume you're doing, just sticking to one is usually going to be good enough. In fact, it makes your life easy too, because it's easy to see what data saved, where the blanks are, and all that kind of stuff, and not worry about needlessly. So yeah, and just pick one of these ones. Quadrant is not bad. I've played with that. I've played with Pinecone, and I've played with Llama Index, and I've played with Superbase. So they're all pretty much work in very similar ways. The only reason why I played with all of them is because at some point the other time they were kind of recommended as, oh, you know, go use this or go use that. But for our purposes, maybe for a very technical use case, there may be differences that matter. But for our purposes, there aren't enough differences between them for our use case anyway. So like if I was going to build a vector database for, let's say, I don't know, for Wikipedia or something, or something massive like that, then perhaps, you know, what choice of a database you pick could be a consideration or will be a consideration. For our needs, you know, even you have, you know, 10 million lines, it's chump change. It's really not a big deal. So pick whatever you're comfortable with and that works for you, and just stick to that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think you'd even do like drop in all the data of like, and all the sessions that aren't converting.
Correct.
And just do like
Correct.
a match.
Yeah, because that's exactly, yeah. So I know in my case I only showed sales data, but rightfully you should have the non-conversion data sitting in here too, because that's when you really work out the difference between because it's like they gave the same answers or similar answers but didn't convert. They gave and then did convert. Well, once we augment a whole bunch of extra data in using, you know, any one of these other third-party services, if you do use that, is there a difference between the two? And you might realize, wow, they all end up in some sort of a zip code or some sort of an area of a state where it's not converting. And when you look at it at the map or whatever, because think about it, you can also, when you're looking at this sort of stuff, you can also start appending like the income level of the postcode. And so now we may not see a difference, but inside your data set there is a difference, because I've got two leads both in Los Angeles. One comes from, you know, 90210, and the other one comes from, I don't know, some other zip code. And the one in 90210 didn't convert, and the other one did convert. And so, but when you attach, average family size, or you attach, you know, how many military personnel in the zip code, there's a whole bunch of data sets that are available out there. Average income levels, average number of people in a household, so on and so forth. That all the extra data may start revealing differences that we can't see or notice.
Cohorts.
Correct. Yes. So you want to put your converting data and non-converting data in the same place, because that's when the AI will, or that's when you want to, because the goal is, can I see a contrast between those who answered and those who didn't answer, and what are the differences between them? Because let's say you identify that everyone from Western California does not buy solar panels, for argument's sake. Well, you would just remove them from your bidding. And let's say if 60% of the traffic was coming from that part, then all of a sudden you've got a campaign that's not working, starts working. Then you can worry about, is there a market there? Is there a reason why no one's converting? Maybe everybody's got solar panels already. So therefore, your probability of selling a solar panel in that part of the state or whatever is there's a reason why it's not selling. It's because the penetration of solar panels in that part of the state is already at 40% or 50% or whatever, because there's an upper bound, right, beyond which it gets harder and harder to get sale. So the lesson here would be not that you can't do solar sales in there, but the pitch you're going to make into that area is going to be different. So you're not going to say get solar panels. I've already got it. You're going to say renew your solar panels, or you can have, I don't know, double the capacity of a solar panel, I don't know, with a government rebate or something. So you start now going after the market that's already got the solar panel, and you're getting them to renew them, because I'm sure there's people in the market who put them 4 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever it is, and they're kind of getting to their end of life And so they're a good candidate for a renewal project, just like the roofing people get new roofs, and hot water people, get new, hot water tanks and all that sort of stuff.
So you do a call at the beginning of the DT, for example, and then you do another call after they've become a lead, or after they've become an email, another call.
So you can make an API call whenever you want. You can make a call in the DT. The issue always ends up being is how fast is the API call, and sometimes it's just not fast enough for the purposes of a real-time thing. And so for that reason, I say, okay, limit your real-time API calls to just what LeadByte will give you, or whatever lead distribution.
Updating the database.
Yeah. Oh no, then I would do it yeah, you can do it a few times, right? That's the reason why I shared this, not this one. It was the it was this one here, the 4x one. That's why my column to match on is epoch, or whatever in your case, email or phone number or something.
Yeah.
Or a lead ID, because obviously you haven't received the other information yet, and lead ID is unique. So what can happen is it's after every few steps, and every step you can make an API call to append more and more and more columns. And so at the end you don't miss out. Yeah, the worst thing you can do is only update the database at the end, because now you're only going to get the successful people, and you're going to miss out on the unsuccessful one. I mean, they'll be still inside leads too. You're going to have to export them and all that kind of stuff, but you might as well just do it this way.
So you can do lead ID or email.
I would use lead ID because your email may not be captured until much later, while lead ID is available as soon as they land on the page.
Yeah, that makes sense. You can do lead ID, capture that, then that becomes unique identifier. And send
Correct.
it through to
across the entire funnel. So you can send it to the sales team, and that way when they finally sell whatever solar panels or whatever the heck it is, they can send you back the data back saying, okay, cool, we had lead ID 1234 who bought solar panel whatever XYZ for total value of whatever 50,000 or something, or whatever it is. And that way now you've got even your sales data getting attached to a very unique way, because even the phone number could change during the funnel. Like I gave you my fake email, but then I realized, oh, hang on a second, this is actually legit. So let me give you the real email on the sales on the phone call. So now your unique identifier, if it was email, would change. But if it was lead ID or some other numerical value, then that's not going to change.
How have you seen lead generators align incentives with lead buyers in terms of getting data back?
Usually price is the one that works best. So let's say if you're selling a lead for $100 per lead, you just create saying, well, 150 if you don't give me data, or 100 if you give me data. So you disincentivize if they're for not sharing your data, and you can be very, very clear, saying, listen, I'm not asking you to give me the extra bit of financial information that you have to gain to get the. For example, let's say if they're selling things on debt, then they may share personal income level information, all that kind of stuff, which fair enough. They haven't the privacy, would mean that you can't get that information. That's fine. That's not what you're after. You're after the sales data. Oh, did this guy buy or not? So even a 1 or 0 is good enough, or yes or no is good enough. And obviously it's better if they can give you the SKU, there's in the what they bought, which is nicer, and the dollar amount they spent, which is even even nicer, because now you can start discriminating where the high value leads look like and what they buy versus what the low value, or maybe the lower spend, what they buy. And it's not good or bad. It's just, it gives you a deeper understanding that there's actually a bunch of people buying everything from the 5K product all the way to the 50K product, but can I see the difference between them? And that's what that data would. That's really, honestly, for me, it's far better to focus on that than wasting time trying to get new ads and all that kind of crap done. I mean, that's not to say you should not do that, but the point is that just that extra bit of data will make the other side work so much better.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Even just moving to further down the conversion process for us made a huge difference.
I actually learned that the first, well, not, I mean, I've known it for a while because I ran sales teams too. It was when I worked on an insurance funnel, and they happened to be the insurance company. And so we had access to all the data. And it was fascinating to see that you have you have campaigns that have a very high conversion rate when you're looking at, as in leads conversion, but there's nobody buying. And then you've got another campaign that's just like, oh, this is bombed. Like it's just not making any, like the CPAs, the CPLs are triple what we expect. But then they're buying the super high value stuff, and so the numbers still work. But until you attach the sales data against that high CPL, you might throw out that campaign, and that's the one that you need. So yeah, it's often it's important not to shut campaigns off without completing the sales cycle. That happened with John, right? With the gastric band one. I know I share it all the time because he's given him permission to publicly share it. He was running Facebook campaigns, and after like a couple of weeks, he's like, "Oh man, nobody's booking a call with the doctor." And it's like, well, I don't know how long are you emailing them for? And he said, oh, about a week or whatever it was. I mean, he was hoping for people to jump on a call from a Facebook ad to go see the doctor. I mean, from a Facebook ad. I said, come on. I said, how many people do you know they want to get operated on after seeing a Facebook ad? So it's like when you step back and think about it, you're like, oh yeah, duh, that's a pretty dumb expectation of my market. So I should just extend the funnel and then extend the nurturing sequence. And you start nurturing up to 60 days, 90 days. All of a sudden, funnel starts working. It's because there was nobody converting within hours or within days of giving their name, email, phone number, because they needed time to sort of chew through the decision they're about to make. You're getting operated on. There's financing issues. There's obviously issues with how safe the operation is and all that sort of stuff. And so when you kind of consider that, the decision-making process is quite long. It's not going to happen overnight. It's almost like saying, let's run a Facebook ad so you can get married tomorrow morning. Right? I mean, it can depending on the price, obviously, but that can happen. Right. Good question. Any other questions to follow up on this?
Nick, I've got an idea about a potential project you can work on. Have you ever heard of the website called Panorama?
How do you spell that?
I'll pop it in the chat and you can click on it.
Okay, all right. Let's bring it up. Should I be shutting my video?
I'm not but basically I came across it the other day. It will essentially funnel hack for you. It will tell you all of your competitors, SMS, email marketing, and stuff like that.
Perfect. Okay, well, there you go. So this one would be to track your competitors. So you can actually build an automation to funnel hack or to whatever your competitors. Yeah, absolutely. Now this is assuming that the campaigns that people are running are static. Yeah. And so
I think this updates regularly. It's live. It will always be updated. So I'm wondering, like, it could be.
Yeah, no. So for example, while I can't show you DTs, there are DTs that are going all kinds of direction based on how you answer the question and how extra data is being pulled in. And so because of that, they may be going down a pathway in a funnel that is one out of potentially thousands. So anyway, but I know not a lot of people run those kind of funnels, but it won't capture those people. But outside of that, yeah, I love the idea. What's the pricing like?
I've not actually checked out, but I thought it'd be good, especially if you're looking to like enter a market. It'd be great to have like extract this data, pass the AI, tell you the exact business plan you need to position yourself within the market.
Yeah. No, but the first thing I'd do is I grab this, I'd go and do the unlimited, the track your competitor bit, and I go into it manually just to validate that what this is seeing and what I'm seeing kind of reconciles, just to make sure that it's not leading you down a garden path by selling you efficiency but not effectiveness, right? So yeah, but outside of that, yeah, absolutely, I love the idea concept. Oh yeah, so what happened to that VG site where you built out the content generator for? Yeah, so we generated a whole bunch of content, and then I had anyway, I'm just gonna stop sharing because I had pause recording for a second. So the blog's doing well. SEO workflow essentially is they'll come up with a topic, they'll do a brief, they'll put it into our internal project management system. I'll get tagged, I'll jump on it, I read through it, I'll look at the keywords they want me to talk about and a few other links, that stuff they added in about other pages. And then I'll go and record a video anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes where I break the topic down in how how this should be looked at, the topic area. And oftentimes we are contrarian, as in I purposefully go against conventional wisdom. I'll share counterexamples and all that sort of stuff. And then that is what gets transcribed, and they build the article around that. Or they'll take that piece and then they'll run it through some sort of AI. So there's the foundation of the article is not like getting AI to write the whole thing. It's got a reasonably lengthy human transcript of what to work off, and then we're AIing that, if that makes sense.
So you could do the same that you've just done for that N8N workflow for your videos? Correct.
That's it. So what my challenge is now with so this is, in fact, what took me into N8N is because my SEO guy said, Nick, we really need competitor pages. And so we tried to solve the problem in three ways, actually. The first way we tried to solve the problem, which bombed, was we hired a researcher and said, can you research? And like go and look at Typeform and go and look at whoever. We realized that without lead gen knowledge, without software knowledge, their output was pretty crap. So we canned that. I thought, and then so that was the lowest hanging fruit we thought we were going to get. We canned it. The second part was for me to hire experts of each one of those areas. So I was going to hire like a competitor expert A, competitor expert B, someone who promotes themselves as doing projects in that. So for example, I'm a GHL expert, or I'm a whatever software expert. So I was going to hire those people, and I put the ads out. I had almost about 15, 20 people lined up for about 15, 20 different products. And then all this AI stuff started kicking off. So I said to my guys, I said, listen, why don't we put that on the back burner? I'm going to build a machine that scrapes the site to piggyback of what Theo was asking. Essentially, that's how I came up with that, actually, is I started scraping. So what we're basically doing is to scraping the pricing pages and a few of the product pages from a Google Sheet where we add that in. And that is then going to build the first step, research, and it takes it and it builds a well-written article out of that. So the goal is to build an AI machine. It's almost finished, where it's going to write our competitor pages largely from scraping and doing its thing. So that's the project in the spare time.
Very nice.
Yeah. I'll share. In fact, once again, once it gets up and running and working, I'll show you guys some before and after results, and show you the actual automation that I had set up and how it works and all that sort of stuff. I'll break it down. It's not that difficult. Once you've kind of get it very clear, and I think I shared last week or the week before, the hardest part of all of this, honestly, like the hardest part is the bloody credentials. Is this part here? All these logins. That's the hardest part. Once you get this bit going, it actually works really well. So anyway, that's the hardest part. Once the automation part, it's not that hard. It's getting these things to work. These are painful at times, because, so for example, like the Zoom one, like this one here, I spent like hours and hours and hours on it to get it to work, because they have something called scopes, which is you've got to set up what do you want to give permission to your integration to extract. And the point is, it's written in a very technical description, and so it's like you're doing this. It's like, oh, it's not getting my meetings because I haven't given it enough scope. So you go back in there, you add some more permission in, come back, test, doesn't work, or something else is missing. Go back there, add that in, come back, test. So it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And there's no like a button that says add all. How should it have that? I'll just add everything at once, and it doesn't. So anyway, so this is kind of like the hardest part. Once you get this going, really the actual workflow part is not too difficult.
Have you had a chance to play with Google stuff yet from last night?
From Gemini? No, not yet. Not
It's
yet.
insane. You can share your screen with it and it'll start telling you what to do.
Perfect. Okay, well then that's something to look at. So Gemini, the other one that we're playing with at the moment, or the team has been, I haven't played with it much, is AWS Nova. It was a very quiet release. They never looked like it was a quiet release. It's they've released their models. So there you go, about a week ago.
I thought they're Claude.
No, this is Amazon's own models.
They funded Claude, but this is their own model, so it's different to that.
Correct. They're competing against.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like Microsoft versus OpenAI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. So inside Amazon, you can get Claude. You can get I think a few other ones, Cohen or whatever else. There's a few other models, and then they just released their own called Nova. I haven't played much with it, but the team has, and they liking it so far. But once again, I haven't tested it yet. So just to go back to so Theo, what you were saying, the capability that you want to focus on is this thing right here. So I guess I could just copy and paste it here, and add AWS Nova here, and so on and so forth. And so what happens is for a specific task, you might find that one of these works better than the other one, and unfortunately, you don't know until you test all of them. And that's the reason for expanding your repertoire of skill set to work with multiple models. In fact, the prompts usually are just copy and paste in most cases across these models, but the output is totally different. So that's as a final kind of takeaway on the whole thing is building capability. Because I know OpenAI came up first, and kind of like everyone's kind of fallen in love with it, but it's not the only game in town, and there's a good chance that these other guys who are just as well funded could outdo what OpenAI is doing. And what I'm finding is for certain things, this is better. For some things, maybe that might be better, and for some things, that might be cheaper. So Nova is actually quite cheap. It's actually looking at almost half the price of most of the other ones. So depending on the task you want done, it may work out to be cheaper to use this for a specific task. Maybe scraping, you want to use this, but to write, you might want to use that, or whatever. There's a few ways to sort of construct the whole thing. And that's the right way of doing it. You use the right tool for the right job. Right. Any other questions? No, well, if there's no more questions, we'll call it a night. Thank you all for jumping on. Hope this was valuable. Sorry?
February might have a question.
Oh, do you have a question, February?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
Oh, hope this was interesting.
It was really interesting, Nick. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Done. Awesome. Thanks for jumping on the call. All right, guys. If there's no more questions, we'll do it same time, same. I think. Oh, I don't know. What's next week? Is it? We still? It's not Christmas Day. Okay, no, then we'll do it. Hope it's not Christmas Day. But having said that, I might just jump on the call because it's midnight here and everybody's asleep anyway, so I can always jump on Christmas Day too.
You're an animal.
All right, guys, look after yourself. Have a safe week and profitable one too, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.